Batman and Robin battle the Zodiac Master. The Zodiac Master was an astrology-themed villain who appeared in one issue of the Silver Age, Detective Comics 323. And this period is very close to when Julius Schwartz is set to take over as Batman editor. He comes in 327, in an issue we've taken a look at. And aside from giving Batman a new look, one of the mindsets was to make the book less silly. Now, while some may still find the books under his tenure mighty silly by modern standards, modern in quotes, they are far less so than some of what came before. Case in point, the Zodiac Master, from an era where Batman's villains just had gimmicks and they were just very random at times. Now, unlike some gimmicks which seem like they have a fairly firm rooting and potential, they just need to be worked with a little bit, Zodiac Master is one of the weaker outings, although miles may vary. We'll talk about it. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and let's take a look at the Zodiac Master. Was his defeat written in the stars? They use that line in the opening teaser, so it's not just me. Also, if it was written, I'm not sure, because the Zodiac Master is not great at what he does. I guess we'll throw out the obligatory, what's your sign? The story, The Zodiac Master, was written by Dave Wood, with art by Sheldon Moldoff, and inks by Charles Paris. The cover date is January of 1964, which means it was actually published in late 1963. The cover presents us with our villain, his sky blue unitard adorned with the various astrological signs. The cover also showcases an ability that's never quite fully explained in this issue, which is that the Zodiac Master can pull various symbols off his costume and launch them, and they turn into things. Case in point, the teaser page.
Great Scott, Zodiac sign of Sagittarius the Archer has been transformed into a mechanical arrow, and I'm the target.
Do you believe that everything, our lives, our fate, is written in the stars? The Zodiac Master, and there's just something about adding master to the end of your name that increases the camp factor, but he is legitimately campy. Just from the get-go, bursting onto the scene of an ocean liner's maiden voyage, ripping off his trench coat and hat to reveal his costume underneath. He's there declaring that they can't sail, for he predicts disaster. The stars know all, the constellations foretold a disaster. Chase that costume crankpot off the gangplank, men. Gotham is so used to this. It's standard. The response is very, okay, men, get the hose. Heed my words, the ship will meet misfortune. The framing of this panel, it's meant to catch him mid-run, but it makes him look like he's prancing or skipping away, which I appreciate. Now, the ship does run into trouble. Thankfully, it wasn't touting itself as unsinkable or anything like that, but it does hit a tanker. Now, a few days later, at the airport, where Bruce and Dick happen to be seeing off a friend, the Zodiac Master appears again. The constellation Aries predicts your doom. You will perish in flame as you take off. Now, it's at this event where Zodiac Master goes from nuisance to menace, as when the plane tries to ignore him and take off anyway, he attacks it.
Get out of the way, you fool. You're holding up the flight.
There will be no flight, pilot. You defy the prophecy of the constellation Aries, so it is only fitting that its sign, the Ram, ground you. As the bizarre missile hurls through the air, a startling transformation takes place.
Oh, he slammed an engine with that contraption. Cut switches!
Now, Batman and Robin try to go after him, but he's not done. He has more signs to throw at them. He throws a scorpion at them, because Scorpio, and it somehow has wires shoot out of it, and they get stuck in them. And minutes later, after Batman and Robin free themselves,
with gimmick sign devices such as this, that astrologer's a real menace, Robin.
Gosh, wonder if the Zodiac character knows what he's talking about. Something did happen to the ship. Robin is an astrology girly confirmed. It turns out there was a defective wire on the jet, and if they had taken off, they would have crashed. But Batman is less concerned whether the Zodiac Master is legit or not, and more concerned about the crime wave that's sweeping Gotham City. But could these two things be connected? Yes, they are. The Zodiac Master has a pretty interesting setup going on. He's also going by the name Mr. Z in the underworld. What he's doing is he's selling his underground fortune-telling services to gangs to help predict whether their crimes will go well or not, if they're picking the right day under the right sign and all of those things. It actually plays really nicely with the whole Batman idea of criminals are a superstitious lot, and the Zodiac Master himself has a very intriguing moment here. That night, in the quarters of the costumed astrologer. Too bad that racetrack heist didn't come off today, Mr. Z. Yes, Marty, but sometimes the stars can be wrong. That's why I went to the trouble of rigging the disasters of the ship and plane to make sure my predictions came true. Well, the underworld sure took the bait, Mr. Z. The gangs are paying you 25% just to predict their future jobs. And if the stars double-cross them and they get caught, well, that's their tough luck. But we mustn't lose faith in the stars, my friend. If the signs of the constellations are interpreted properly, one will meet with success. So there's a couple of things going on here. One, that the Zodiac Master did rig those disasters to make himself look more credible. But this is coming from a place of him also believing in astrology and just the idea that the stars are hard to predict. But he's not putting as much effort into predicting them for his racket as he is for himself. For he is using astrology to try and map out optimal times for his crimes. This is why I'm taking great care in reading the astrological signs for a big job of my own. And now, back to work on it. That wrist flip, I love you, Zodiac Master. There are some mental gymnastics that the Zodiac Master is performing here. A little bit of cognitive dissonance in terms of how he's viewing astrology. It didn't work for them, but it'll work for me. There are some threads there that are fun that you could tug on a little bit. But his racket is not hard to figure out or infiltrate. Bruce gets to disguise himself for this one, go undercover, and we're pre-matches Malone, so he's just gonna go for a random hoodlum disguise. They go all out. Wig, fake stubble, Dick Tracy hat that changes colors in between panels. Bruce is quickly taken to Mr. Z to get a prediction and wastes no time in ripping off his mask, which had his Batman mask under it the whole time. How must that face have looked sitting on top of that mask? It's so silly. It rounds the corner again to being incredible. It depends on how you're feeling about the story. It could be incredibly entertaining or immersion breaking and world shattering. Miles may vary. I am entertained. The logistics of it are amusing to contemplate. Also, his pants changed color between panels. Mr. Z must be making good money. He's got a custom table, the decaled walls, custom chair, advanced robot suit? Seriously, how do the symbols work? But as Batman charges forward,
The sign of Sagittarius, the archer transformed into a jet arrow. Gotta move fast.
the lion on the wall, Leo the lion, of course, is an escape hatch, and the Zodiac Master abandons his lair and his loyal henchman, who is not so loyal and just flips instantly, telling all of his business, all of his plans, and Batman gets all the information on all the gangs who came to him. But he doesn't know what the Zodiac Master's criminal plan was. But thankfully, all of the material is right there. He left out his Zodiac map, the star readings, everything.
A zodiac map and a slip of paper.
Seems to be a date, a favorable prediction, and some constellation symbols, Batman. He's right there, Robin. Your time to reach for greater heights. You don't need to be the world's greatest detective to figure out when he's planned his heist. He dated it. He also has a Taurus symbol on there. And given how gimmicky Batman's villains usually are, that means that it has to be bull themed. They just have to go look for a bull themed thing that's going to be available on that date. Is Batman really the world's greatest detective, or are his villains just incredibly sloppy and predictable? Next day, an eerie sound booms through an exhibit room of Gotham Museum as
It looks like a crab.
we hit pay dirt, Batman. Zodiac's utilizing a mechanical crab, a constellation sign to steal the bejeweled golden bull.
I'll knock his flying crab out of the air.
Dynamic duo. That really looks like a lobster. But when I looked at that, I knew there was no way they would just have drawn a lobster. So I went on this deep dive back into the depiction of the astrological signs. And the further back you go, you do see symbols that look far more what we would consider lobster-like, but they're more of a fusion between a crab and a lobster. It seems to just have been a regional historical thing. If you look back at lots of old Christian art, medieval art, you're gonna see that more lobstery, or what we would consider lobstery style depiction. The point is, this depiction is not as inaccurate as it may appear at first glance. And this is why it's interesting, and it depends when you come to things, because time of recording, it's much more common to see that rounder crab, and so this may stick out. And one may have the knee-jerk reaction of, that's a lobster, but this isn't actually an error. Now, looking at how he's throwing all these things off his costume and his predictions, it makes one ponder the idea of what would happen if one truly could tap into these signs. A villain who could truly prophesize in this way, or summon these powers to fuel himself, the powers of the various houses and stars. However, again, that feels better suited for another character, maybe a magic-based one, a Constantine, or again, maybe a space-themed one, Green Lantern. Also, there are other Zodiac characters, like Madame Zodiac, Dr. Zodiac. Right now, it's Zodiac Master's turn. Batman defeats the Zodiac Master in the most humiliating way possible, sending his mechanical goat head back at him where it headbutts him in the butt, which Robin thinks is hilarious. I still don't understand. How did you know I planned to plunder the bejeweled gold bull?
The symbol of Taurus, the bull was the tip-off. When I spotted at your hideout, I recalled that a certain king's artifacts were on exhibit here, and that the bull was worshipped by ancient creeds.
And I figured you'd attempt a robbery today, the 5th of the month, your favorable birth date. Oh man, was it his birthday? Sad. It is a sad time to be the Zodiac Master, and that is just gonna continue. The Zodiac Master disrespect, it never ends. And then he gets arrested. The end. The Zodiac Master certainly fits into the realm of sillier villains, and his modus operandi as presented here isn't the strongest for any kind of long-term plans, or to be a frontline villain. But there are still some fun elements. Now, while he was largely shelved, there are a few blink and you'll miss it appearances before he really comes back in a big way. Before he comes back. These blips include Batman Family 14 from 1977, which showed him in the segment Batman's Bureau of Missing Villains, which states Detective 323 as his first and only appearance. It also says real name unknown. That means we can name him. Let's go. Astrological themed name. Put him down below. Let's name Mr. Z. There's also presented there a brief recap of the story, which they condense into one page. He also appeared ever so briefly in the Solo miniseries, which ran from 2004 to 2006. This was an anthology series which allowed different artists to present issues in their style. Zodiac Master appeared in Solo number 7 in 2005. This was the Michael Allred issue. For our purposes, we need Batman A Go-Go, which was written by Michael Allred and Lee Allred, with Michael doing the pencils and inks and Laura Allred on colors. This is a very surreal and dark story, presented as inside the Batman 66 universe, wherein Batman finds himself being cast aside by both Robin and the police as Robin goes down this path of falling in love with a villain, which ends very badly for him. Robin's quest to impress this girl ends up with him cutting somebody's ear off. It goes places. The Zodiac Master appears in one panel, but is misidentified by Batman as the human Firefly. This is not a mistake, since he's clearly done up as Zodiac Master. It's meant to be yet another indication that something is wrong in this world. Plus, it's a bit of a meta joke about the randomness of Batman's villains during that time period. That story overall is very interesting. It is riding a bit on the juxtaposition of the dark grit with the 66 universe, but it still has some very fascinating moments. It's worth a read. Solo itself was an interesting little anthology experiment. The next big outing for the Zodiac Master comes a little over a decade later. He got updated to a new era, not the New 52, but the DC Rebirth era. Enter Batgirl and the Birds of Prey number 7 from the year 2017 in the story Soldiers of Fortune, written by Julian Shauna Benson, with art by Claire Rowe, colors Alan Paslacqua. We open right onto the new version. Now, this new version no longer has a costume where the signs somehow leap off of it and become mechanical things. Instead, he has tattoos all over, and they can jump off of his body. He can cast them off into the signs. And while his powers are a bit more impressive and menacing, he's treated like more of a joke than ever. Ugh, I'm busy dealing with the Tinder twins. Huntress? Sorry, I'm taking fire from a man who's half horse, or a horse that's half man. Either way, busy. Oracle, wanna fill us in on this constellation creep? Oh man, that's a way cooler name than Zodiac Master. Looks like he's some online astrologer who warned that the Science Center would be robbed tonight. Guess he decided to make sure his horoscope came true. Constellation Creep is not a cooler name than Zodiac Master, especially not in this context. This is just here to belittle him, but if you give the context that he has an online blog and site where he makes predictions, Zodiac Master is actually really good branding. By placing it in that context, the name sounds better and more credible. Now, they do keep the idea that he's predicting things, and then he goes and causes those things he predicted to happen. But whereas in the older story, this was so he could build his rep so that criminals would use his services, as well as because he actually did believe in astrology, here it's a bit more of a blackmail scenario. So he predicts things, and then it's implied that maybe there's some kind of price involved. There are lots of gaps that raise some questions. This is why would these companies listen to him? I'm sure a couple would. But after this happened once, twice, and he seems to be some kind of publicized presence, there would be a connection between him predicting things and then the crimes happening. It's not as good of a racket as he had going in the 60s version. Where do his powers come from? By giving him this update, it actually leaves a lot more gaps, and they're not going to fill them. Speaking of which, he has a little Z in the teardrop position, so I wonder if he killed a man. It must also be noted that with these powers, he's very much stepping on the tattooed man's turf. They're gonna have a fight to the death at some point, I guess. I summon all the signs of the Zodiac to come to my aid. So lame when a man can't fight his own battles.
Spoken like a true Aries, makes sense that you and Batgirl get along. She's a Libra.
Stop knowing everything about me, Oracle. It weirds me out.
Sorry. Bingo on the bribery, by the way. Apparently the Science Center didn't bite.
Okay, several things. If they didn't bite, then it would be super easy to trace. Especially if he's showing up and using actual zodiacs. They have cameras. This is a really bad bad scheme that he's got going compared to what he had going before. Why would he show up to this, not just move on to the next target? Zodiac Master didn't think this through. Also, yes, I'm trying to avoid having to think about Black Canary's line. Yeah, summoning the cosmic powers of the stars. How unmanly. I hope the Zodiac Master doesn't internalize some of that questionable messaging. Next, she's gonna yell at him not to cry. It's just such an unlikable line from Black Canary. Also, note that he doesn't talk about the signs that much. That comes from Oracle. I don't know. This callback just feels a bit mean-spirited. Whenever he's reappeared up to this point, it's been a joke, but this just has a little bit of a mean tinge to it, or that may just be me. I think it's meant to be fun. The way they're bantering about Tinder and science and the like, I think it's meant to come across as lighthearted fun. But the birds of prey come across as very catty and mean, to me at least. And for the power set they've given Zodiac Master here, it feels like they're downplaying him more than they should. They don't even end up actually defeating him, but they do get the jewels or stones that he was trying to steal back. I predict you'll see me again. They won't. But did they take any time to stop that scam he was running? It's not as big a problem as Valentine's Day. This is a Valentine's Day issue. Zodiac Master is just out there robbing people, blackmailing them, using way more credible powers than he had before, and simultaneously being less complex and fleshed out than he was in 1964. But the look, not gonna lie, 10 out of 10 would use again. Edgy, try-hard, hipster astrology F-boy for Zodiac Master. It's a look and it has potential. Also, there's an idea there. Okay, let's quickly do this. Lower the blackmail, dial back up the con man, and have him actually be able to predict things with his powers, but not always accurately. And then you have something cooking. And you can also feed it into this Valentine's Day issue. Instead of relegating him to this brief moment, if you had played a bit more with the astrology element and the idea that maybe one of the birds of prey believes or is into it, because a lot of people do believe it, and there is a bit of a shame there, so you could play with that inside of the story. You could have it that one of them is maybe seeking out romance, because having romantic struggles was part of this run of birds of prey, particularly around this time, and so you could have had it that one of them maybe fall for him, go looking for advice, they end up falling for him instead. You could have a point where they go on a date, and then it can be an embarrassing moment when whoever it is finds out that he is a con artist. And it's revealed that he's actually fishing for something, maybe information, or maybe the fact that he is blackmailing people, or maybe scamming them out of money is revealed. And then you could have moved the big fight, because for some reason he has to take action and go steal these things, to the end. And then it would also have made the way the birds of prey were treating him and talking to him have a bit more credibility, or at least not come out of nowhere, because it would be rooted in the fact that he treated one of them badly. I don't know, to me it just felt like a bit of a waste to bring him, upgrade him, and then just cast him aside like that. He got the cover art theme from and everything, but when he shows up again, they ignore this hard. So where does he show back up? Lazarus Planet, Dark Fate, 2023. In the story The Huntress in Whisper of the Moth. Tim Seeley writing, Baldemar Rivas on art, colors Ivan Placencia. He is one of the villains the Huntress encounters as she walks through Arkham. And once more, we have lots of Zodiac Master disrespect. But we're casting back to the OG Silver Age version to do it. You can see that because they even play with the old design with the Z on the forehead, this time in cloth. He has symbols on his arms like how they were on his old costume, but they don't look like tattoos. And if they are, they're different than the ones he was rocking in the Rebirth era. I've read the stars, it's my time. Zodiac Master, one of the last of Batman's files. I didn't even read it. Didn't need to. He's a simple con man who bilked criminals out of money by predicting what they wanted to hear. Why was he even in Arkham? He had a gimmick, but he wasn't unstable. He was a con man. I mean, he believed in the Zodiac, but that's not Arkham worthy. At least I don't think so. But they really hammer home that he's not worth any of their time. He's more crazed here because everyone is because of Lazarus Range shenanigans. Time of recording, which is always an important disclaimer, especially in the universes with forever stories. That's where he's at for the main universe. Unless he's haunting the background somewhere or he appeared recently in an issue of something. If so, let me know. He's around. He definitely lives to con another day. Some people said that he was in World's Finest. I have not seen him there, but there was a character, Dr. Zodiac, in classic World's Finest, so I'm wondering if they're being transposed. Now as for Mr. Zodiac, the character certainly has a distinct look. The whole conning people aspect appears to have been inspiration for a character in Batman TAS, Nostromos, from the episode Prophecy of Doom from 1992. Many feel that that's where the inspiration for that character came from because they have similar motivations. But you could also say this about Dr. Zodiac. Classic Zodiac Master has appeared on Batman the Brave and the Bold, the animated series from the late aughts and early 2010s. He's appeared there as a background villain. He was also in the Lego Movie and other Lego properties, and also in the Scooby-Doo comic universe, where he creeped on Poison Ivy. Again, time of recording, that seems to be what we're playing with for Zodiac Master. Who knows, maybe James Gunn will put him in the Gunverse just cause he loves an obscure person. When it comes to these more one-note Silver Age villains, some have concepts that can move forward or have a lot of untapped potential. And for others, you'd have to dig a little deeper. Zodiac Master seems to be one of those. He doesn't really seem like he has the staying power to be a big player, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not everybody has to be a big player. The world needs to be filled out and peppered with some of those lower tier villains as well. You could probably get a good story or two out of Zodiac Master, but he's in a way designed to burn out just because of what his main scam is. Unless you switched it so that he was more of a powered version playing with the signs of the Zodiac, but then he'd be a bit different. But you could still call him the Zodiac Master, Zodiac things. To me, the most interesting aspect about him is that cognitive dissonance he's employing between predicting his own crimes and those of others. It'll work for him, even if it doesn't work for them. Playing with that could be a little fun. There are some things that it feels like you could pull on if you wanted to. But those are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Are you really inspired by the Zodiac Master? Do you have tons of ideas as to how you think he could be used? What do you think of him? What stories did you like the most as to what you saw him featured in here? Do you actually really like the Rebirth version? Do you like Zodiac Classic? Neither? Both? Share your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.